My best friend handed me the bridal bouquet with a teasing grin. So, when are you getting hitched? I shrugged, let's wait and see. Before I could say more, my boyfriend, who's 6 years younger than me, jumped in and seemed hesitant. I fiddled with a pedal and casually said, maybe in 6 months. Planning a wedding is a hassle. He thought I was pressuring him, frowned, and reluctantly agreed. Then, using the bachelor's night excuse, he stayed out all night. A week before the wedding, he realized the groom I was talking about wasn't him when he saw his brother's face in the wedding photos. Simon is 25 now, in his prime. As much as I hate to admit it, compared to him, I do feel a bit old. I can't even count how many nights he's stayed out already. Around 9 p.m., a video pops up on my phone. It's from one of Simon's wild friends, along with a cheeky line, "Hey Molly, I'm way more obedient than Simon." I ignored it and opened the video. Couples are dancing in the club. Simon's porcelain white skin, which I took care of, stood out. A girl in a short skirt leaned in. He didn't push her away, just held her waist and swayed with the music. When the beat hit its peak, she tilted her head back. His hand gripped her waist tightly, a grin playing on his lips. She stood on tiptoe, and he bent down to kiss her. They looked good together. That's where the clip ends. Simon's friend texted again, "Molly, honestly, I'm better than Simon." I transferred $200 to him. That's the going rate for surveillance info, then I blocked him. In my book, everything has a price, and that's apparently his. Simon's been acting wild for a while. I saw it coming. I deleted the video and browsed through my saved wedding decorations. My grandma isn't getting any younger. Her only wish is to see me get married. This has been the plan for a while. Simon's antics won't derail that. If he can't step up, I'll find someone who will. At 10 p.m., Simon calls, voice loud on the other end, "Molly, I won't be home tonight." I stayed silent as he hesitated and added, "They know I'm getting married, throwing me a final bachelor party." He said this same line 7 times now. By now, it's clear his bachelor party has taken up his whole week. The noise on his end was like a tidal wave through the phone, breaking the silence in my room. His voice softened, "Sis, what's up?" He waited for me to respond, and I glanced at the clock on the wall. In a daze, the words slipped out, "It's 10. To outsiders, it might mean nothing, but he and I knew exactly what those words meant. Back when we started dating, he set this rule. He was in school, I had late-night work events, and one time I got home past midnight. He was curled up on the couch, surrounded by empty bottles. Barely awake, he stumbled towards me, "Molly, couldn't you be home by 10? Drunk as he was vulnerable and doubtful because he cared. I couldn't bring myself to turn him down, so I promised him, give it a week. During that week, he'd text me, "Molly, almost 10. Come home." Later, he'd simply write, 10. And I'd reply automatically, "Time to head home." It was our little secret game. Yet it stopped at some point without notice. When exactly did it stop? This was the first time I wondered. Maybe when he started working, maybe after graduation, maybe even earlier. He hadn't said that in ages, assuming now I'd always be home by 10. It was a privilege given out of affection. One I could take back any time. He got it but paused. Then someone yelled from his side, "Simon, truth or dare?" The voice got closer, chuckling when they noticed the call. Already checking his phone? Can't even enjoy a bachelor night? Simon stayed silent as a friend patted his shoulder, laughing, "Come on." Simon finally spoke, gentling his tone, "Sis." I pinched my nose, pushed the sentiment away. "You don't need to come home anymore." He stayed quiet, maybe shocked, then grabbed onto his last excuse, "Molly, it's my last bachelor night." He spoke like he was making a complaint. Complaining that I was pushing him. Last week at my best friend's wedding, she handed me the bouquet straight up. Everyone knew Simon and I were 5 years into this relationship. I spoiled him. I'm 31 now, not young anymore. My best friend glanced at Simon and made a playful jab. When's the big day? Let's wait a bit. Simon's response didn't sit well with anyone there. Holding the bouquet, I said, maybe next year. Planning's a headache. Simon didn't want to offend me outright, frowned and nodded. But at home, he vented his anger, calling me out by name. Molly, are you pushing me? I'm only 25. And? When he was 20 and 21, he dreamt of marrying me. Did he forget that now he's 25? That argument didn't resolve anything. It was one-sided and tiring. Seeing his stubborn face, I couldn't argue anymore about who was pushing whom. He stormed out. Didn't come back, claiming another bachelor night the following day. Even now, still stuck at that bachelor night. His friends were calling him urgently, not waiting for my response. He hung up first. Half an hour passed before he texted me. Molly, you're my number one, back home tomorrow. Less than 6 months till my scheduled wedding date. If I don't bring it up, he'll hide behind this bachelor party excuse until time's up. Partly to show he's upset, partly to enjoy himself. He's grown up, convinced I couldn't leave him. But he's wrong. I've known all along, marriage isn't about any one person. It's because I liked having him around. If he listens, go ahead and spoil him. If he doesn't, move on. Find someone clean, obedient, pleasing. It's that simple. Simon doesn't cling to me for answers like he used to when we were deeply in love. I watched the clock hand past midnight and replied to his message. When I said no need to come back, I meant we're over. I gave him his chance. I think I was pretty generous. I was considering asking my best friend to introduce me to someone new when there was a knock at the door. The sound echoed in the night, slow and deliberate. I got up and opened the door to find a tall, statue-like man standing there. He had a cake in one hand, and the other was flickering something at his fingertips. He looked at me, calling my name seriously, Molly. Before I could speak, he continued, speaking sincerely. I'm here to shake up my brother's spot in your life. His voice, half raspy, carried in with the night breeze, smelling of alcohol. I remembered when Simon first brought me home, this guy just stared at me. I thought long and hard but couldn't remember him from anywhere. Now, in front of me, his face was shrouded in smoke. Molly, consider me, he said. I stood with my arms crossed, looking at this serious man. I haven't broken up with your brother yet. He looked down at me, put out the cigarette, and calmly stated, but you two aren't married. We're planning to. He shrugged. Even then, you could still separate. What if we don't? He didn't speak but whispered humbly, just consider me. Even though he'd had a little to drink, making him seem softer, I felt like I could never truly control this guy in the future. I wanted to refuse, but he didn't give me a chance. He handed me the cake. It was from my favorite place back in college. Think about it. Simon's call came through, ringing non-stop. I answered, hearing the anxiety replacing his calmness. Molly, what's going on? Is there a misunderstanding? I'm coming home to talk. The man in front of me took a step forward, the smell of alcohol filling the air. I couldn't tell if he was drunk. He appeared calm but acted recklessly. He ignored me being on the phone and continued, you don't need to break up with Simon. I'm offering myself. I had no idea how much Simon heard, but his tone tightened, who's there with you? Just as I was about to hang up, the guy in front of me said, it's me. Simon figured it out, calling through the phone, bro? Sam didn't answer, and Simon's tone suddenly relaxed, great, you're there, bro. Help me talk to Molly. I'll head back first thing in the morning. Sam sincerely replied, okay. Simon heard only Sam's voice, not the content, so he mistakenly felt assured leaving me with Sam. He didn't realize Sam was cozying up to his place. I hung up the phone. Sam stood silently, waiting for my verdict. I took a deep breath and joked, go find someone else. I'm really not interested. He's my type, though, quiet, capable, willing to spoil who he loves. When I dated Simon, I was young, infatuated with the younger, clingy type, and learned how bad it was after. Even though I have little moral ground, I wouldn't jump into something with Sam right away. He didn't move, choosing instead to state, "This is on me. I tempted you." His intent gaze seemed to strip away my pretense to peer into my soul. After a couple of seconds contemplating his words, I stepped aside. It all seemed logical. Simon wasn't fair first. I asked for a breakup. Sam pursued me while single, and we got together. It felt natural and justified. That's how low my moral code is. Because it's low, it frees me up most of the time. Pointing a finger, I faced the man awkwardly standing after stepping inside. "Let's set some ground rules." He looked up, and I wiggled my index finger. "First, we keep this private for now. I don't think my grandma would take it well." He didn't disagree, so I showed too with my ring finger. "Second, if my grandma passes, we separate." Still no objections, he kept quiet, so I raised my thumb. "Lastly, after marriage, you can't control my freedom." Still standing there, he blinked as I kiddingly shot him with a finger gun, complete with a bang, bang sound. Whose heart was it I heard, pounding loudly, exposing its owner? Sam seemed a bit annoyed but quickly realized it was his. After years, he finally got it. "Here's my one condition, let's get married, fast." "Okay." He was truly eager. Once I agreed, he sat on the couch browsing wedding venues. Watching him, I asked, "Were you planning this?" He shook his head, eyes still on the screen. "No." Then he added, "I was thinking about how to edge my way in." I opened the cake, sitting beside him as he scrolled through venues. "Strawberry cake." I pushed the strawberries to the side. He picked them up, eating them. "Don't like strawberries?" "I used to. Can't remember why I stopped." "I see. Strawberries are the worst thing ever." He didn't ask why, just nodded seriously. "Got it." Casually removing the strawberries, he turned his attention back to wedding planning. It was 3 a.m., yet here I was, planning a wedding with Sam. It seemed ridiculous. But he wasn't fazed, insisting on knowing my opinions. "Do you like this venue? How about these invites? Is it okay to try dresses at this shop? How does early next month sound for an appointment?" One question after another made this dreamlike dialogue abruptly real. Eventually, I couldn't stay awake and slipped into the bedroom to sleep. Only after closing the door did I notice his intensity. Bent slightly forward, shoulders taut, eyes glued to that tiny screen, fingertips pressed firmly, it stuck with me. I leaned on the door frame, watching him. "Guest room's over there. Want to rest?" He stood up, looked over as I pointed, and turned in an almost robotic way. I tried to stifle a laugh. He opened his mouth calmly, not sleeping. "Got a key?" I was puzzled, and then he continued, "I'm going for a run. You might still be asleep when I get back in the morning." "Makes sense." Second from the left on top of the shoe cabinet. "Run far so you don't disturb the neighbors." He nodded, got up, and walked to the door, moving awkwardly. Before he closed the door, he awkwardly said to me, "Go to sleep early." I turned my head, and saw his phone on the living room table, ringing and lighting up non-stop with calls. I walked over and saw Mom on the screen. Soon a message came through. "I heard from little Simon that you're at Molly's. Help your brother talk to Molly." It wasn't like I wanted to snoop, it was the bright screen, messages coming one after another. "You know little Simon's personality, be more understanding as his big brother. Use the apartment you bought earlier this year as the wedding house. Don't say I'm playing favorites, you don't live there anyway." I placed the phone face down on the table, walked into the bedroom. His mom's tone was really disgusting. The next day, hunger woke me up. Hadn't eaten anything from the day before. I got up and headed to the kitchen for some food. As soon as I walked out, I saw Sam. He was sitting properly on the sofa, still in last night's position, wearing glasses, looking at the computer screen. Seeing me awake, he took off his glasses, stood up, and walked into the kitchen. Custard buns and soy milk. Eat up, they're hot. I ate the custard bun while watching him work. He noticed and turned the screen towards me without putting his glasses back on. Does this wedding invite style work? That's when I realized what he was working on, a wedding PowerPoint. Formally dull. Using the most basic format too. Covering my stomach, I laughed out loud. How can someone be like this? Sam's ears turned slightly red, but he held up the computer, waiting for me to finish laughing. I glanced at the simple PPT, and for some reason, it hit me again, making me laugh. He saw me laughing and joined in with me. He's got those charming almond-shaped eyes, deep double eyelids, making the whites and blacks stand out, which gives him a sort of fierce look. But when he smiles, the curve of his upper eyelids makes him look affectionate, his eyes deep and misty, holding an inexplicable tenderness. I looked at him, and he looked at me. The atmosphere suddenly became a bit romantic. The sudden sound of a door opening broke the mood. Molly, I'm back. Simon returned, his first time back after our argument over a week ago. Bro's here too, huh? Simon greeted Sam, and Sam turned back the computer screen. I took another bite of the custard bun, leaned back on the sofa, and replied to Sam's question. The second style looks better. Sam softly agreed. Simon could sense something was off, but didn't know what, so he just sat next to me. Molly, did you misunderstand something? He tried to hold my hand, but I quickly pushed it away. He didn't continue to defend himself, lowered his head, apologized quickly, my bad. In the past, during arguments, he'd always be the first to back down, but even when he did, he never changed. I had already noticed his dismissive attitude, repeatedly bringing up solving issues, but he only thought about flipping the page. Yeah. He probably didn't expect me to react this way, probing. Did one of my friends say something bad? As he spoke, he tried to hold my hand again, but Sam interrupted. Molly, what about this wedding dress? I looked over. He had good taste, classic style. I nodded, and Sam continued, we'll set that for now. Simon suddenly realized he couldn't get in on our conversation. He looked at Sam, bewildered, calling, bro? Sam didn't reply, so Simon moved closer to him. He looked at the computer for a while before finally speaking, bro, thanks. Your PowerPoint is so detailed. Thinking his brother made it for him, sure enough, his next sentence was, bro, can you send me a copy? Sam, with lowered eyes, put down the laptop, his hand clenching uncontrollably. After looking at me, he mumbled, it's not done yet. Bro, you're the best. When I get home this week, I'll have May make your favorite dishes for you. You like spicy, right? I remember. Simon was happy, edging closer to me. Molly, when's our wedding? I bit the last of the custard bun, my reply muffled. Sam answered first, in a month. The bun's flavor fading, I caught the faint scent of Simon's cologne. Fruit scented, which I never use. Shocked, he asked, why move it up so much? Sam addressed him, good to set it early. Simon, frowning, replied, bro, I'm only 25. Though speaking to Sam, he was looking at me, full of complaint. He assumed the wedding date change was my idea. Sam asked, so what? Simon couldn't answer, shifting topics, speaking gloomily. The friends set up a trip for half a month, leaving this afternoon. If you want to go, go. I swallowed the bun and finally voiced my opinion. After all, he's got nothing to do with me. Simon excitedly, unexpectedly finding me easygoing, instinctively wanted to lean on my shoulder. Once more, Sam interrupted, Molly, take a look at this. I got up, walked behind him, looking over his shoulder at the screen. It wasn't a PPT, but a few words. I'm a bit envious. Not anger, not jealousy, envy. Simon was busy planning the trip on his phone. I turned and went into the kitchen. Simon was behind me, sending a voice message to a friend, leaving this afternoon for a solo trip. Leaning against the door frame with half a watermelon, Simon buzzed about the upcoming trip. Sam approached, taking the watermelon, and swiftly cubed it, plating it. Setting the watermelon aside, he started slicing mangoes. Simon was on the phone in the living room, whispering. The air filled with the fresh scent of cut fruit. I didn't know what made him envious of Simon. I could only guess and comfort. I granted him his rights as a fiancé, gently pushing him against the kitchen door for a brief kiss. Before Simon left, he asked Sam, "Chin up, bro, can you handle the wedding prep? I'll have it all sorted by the end of the month." Sam lowered his head silently, neither agreeing nor refusing. Once Simon left, he asked me, "When can we visit Grandma?" I replied, "Soon." On the third day of Simon's trip, May called me. She told me Simon had a heart problem when he was young, hinting that I should be more forgiving. I just yet a couple times, then turned to see Simon's face trending on social media. Looked like a bonfire party with young people gathered around. Simon's face stood out, holding the hand of a girl with short hair. His face had a bold smile around the fire. The video caption read, "Being young is great, attending a bonfire with someone you like." I checked out her page, and Simon appeared often in her videos. Whether it was his arm, the back of his head, or the hem of his clothes. Eventually, Simon started showing up directly, matching her requests without hesitation. Being young is pretty great, but I didn't have time for their stuff. Sam had packed my schedule tight: view house, try on wedding dresses, get the marriage license. Too much, I needed to sleep early. The invitations Sam ordered finally arrived. He carefully wrote our names on each one. He hadn't practiced handwriting but was very attentive. His back was straight, treating every invitation like a treasure. Busy during the day, writing at night. If I slept, he'd run, and when I woke up, he'd start writing again. I suspected he hadn't slept these days, so I took him to visit Grandma for a break. Grandma was a bit better but still didn't recognize people. Her memory was fuzzy, pulling me saying, "Sweetie, come home with Grandma." Then she called Sam, "Little Simon. Little Simon, take care of Molly." In her eyes, I was still the little girl needing care. She called Sam the wrong name, but he didn't correct her, just squatted so she could hold him. He answered sincerely, "I know, Grandma." Grandma's memory was good some days, bad others. She remembered Simon, which was tricky. But Sam confidently told me not to worry. What Simon had done, he could do, and even better. He said seriously, "I'll definitely put Grandma at ease, I'm better than Simon." Sam got busier, planning the wedding, caring for Grandma, and discussing with me. He seemed like three people rolled into one but didn't complain at all. When I was busy, Simon looked after Grandma. Now it was Sam's turn, and someone from the hospital must have had Simon's contact. They called him the first time in a week. "Molly, is my brother taking care of Grandma?" "Yes." He sounded a little flustered, with a hint of guilt. "Should Grandma be taken care of by my brother?" "Wait till I come back, I'll take care of her daily." After he graduated, my work got easier. I had plenty of time for the hospital, but he seemed to get busier. Funny thing was, my busiest time was the happiest for us. I told him, no need. He changed the subject, "We'll take wedding photos when I'm back. My mom's taking you to see the house tomorrow. Let me know if you're not satisfied." I hung up. Sam was baking cookies in the kitchen. The sweet scent filled the whole place. With the speaker on, he probably heard the conversation. He brought out the first batch in a bowl, handing it to me. "We'll go see the house tomorrow too." He paused, then added, "With my mom." I said nothing. He added, "See the house, get the license, take photos, wedding next week." I teased him, "In a hurry?" He didn't deny it, openly admitting, "Yeah, very." Next morning, May was waiting downstairs. I'd met her before, Simon had been sweet-talking her and she'd smiled gently. But I didn't expect her to be so different with Sam. Her smile faded seeing Sam, looking a bit tense. She spoke only as we got close. Going to see the house? Sam nodded, then opened the car door for me. She stood outside, lost. Sam spoke again before she got in, nervously wiping sweat with tissues. Sam knew more about the house than his mom, explaining everything to me. Pointing at the door, when you move in, get a pink carpet, you'd like that. He pointed at the chandelier, you could change it. I didn't like the color, Sam preempted. You probably don't like this paint either, we can change it. Sam's mom followed us, while Sam explained his visions for each place. Seemed genuine. After the whole house tour, Sam's mom found her chance. She asked, Molly, when are you and Simon trying on wedding dresses? I was confused for a second, looking at Sam instinctively. He answered her, the day after tomorrow. Simon isn't back yet. No one replied. Sam's mom might have realized something was off and called him into a room. I, lacking ethics, followed to eavesdrop. What's this, brother? You don't want Simon using the house? She continued, Mom knows you've had a crush, but she's your sister-in-law. Sam stayed silent, letting her scold him. How biased. I was about to interrupt when Sam spoke. Ma, I'm leaving. Where? To the hospital for Grandma, he replied. That blew everything wide open. Sam, her shrill voice, that's your sister-in-law. Sam replied, not for much longer. On the day of the license, Sam wore white, pulling me out quickly. Before leaving, I got a call from Simon. Nervously, he asked, Molly, have you been checking videos? Yeah, I replied. Sam listened quietly, waiting for my call to end. I stepped forward, took his hand, and told the guy on the phone, anything to say? If not, I'm off to get the license. Simon tried to keep it light, knowing what happened at the house. Molly joking again, I'm not even back, how are you getting married? Stamp, photo, done. But the picture was not the Simon who'd been with me for 5 years, but his brother, in less than a month. Sam clicked photo after photo of the marriage certificate with his phone. I carefully put away the marriage certificate, looking at the photos over and over again. Am I dreaming? No. The wedding dress choices were all beautiful. I picked one out. I pulled back the curtain, thinking Sam would still have a blank expression. But surprisingly, his eyes were red. He suddenly raised his hand to cover his forehead, and tears started falling down in big drops. I was momentarily stunned. I didn't expect someone like him to cry. The shop assistant handed me some tissues with a smile, saying, You two have a great relationship. I took the tissues and used my dress to wipe Sam's tears. His tears were hot, and his whole body was trembling slightly. Every tear seemed to fall directly into my heart, sparking ripples until it caused a loud crash, like the collapse of mountains and rivers. I thought to myself about making some promises, but it looks like I'm going to break the first one. The wedding photos turned out beautifully, except for Sam's red eyes. After the shoot, Sam kept looking at the photos on his phone, rubbing his nose as he went through them. I turned his head straight and asked, Do you have a crush on me? His eyelashes were long, sticking together, and his lower eyelids and nose tip were red. He admitted openly, Yeah, I have a crush on you. Maybe because he doesn't cry often, tears fell again as he spoke. Big tears rolled down, as if insisting on softening my heart, making it tender, unable to resist hugging him, comforting him and laying out all my tenderness before him. As he explained through his tears, it softened my heart completely. I've secretly loved you for so long. He knew I liked you, so he got close to you. The way he pursued you? All from my notebook. Strawberry cake, I knew you liked it. That skiing trip, that was my idea. He'd been wronged so much. As I handed him tissues, I listened to his broken explanations, barely paying attention to the phone ringing constantly. When I got the wedding photos, I posted on Twitter. Getting married, with 2 pictures attached. One photo of Sam looking at me with red eyes. The other, the red marriage certificate with Molly, Sam written on it. I didn't go home, I went to Sam's place. After he came in, maybe realizing how he'd acted earlier, he avoided looking at me. I took a shower, and when I came out, he had placed our marriage certificate properly in the showcase in the living room. He kept looking at it, like a kid given a candy they dared not eat. When he saw me, he calmly said, "Molly," and I sat beside him, listening to him continue. "I envy Simon. Mom always missed my parent-teacher meetings. I never had winter gloves. Everyone liked Simon, including you." As he spoke, he let out a self-mocking laugh. In middle school, I had a stray dog. Simon took it, and a week later it died. In high school, my essay got displayed, but the next day it was splattered with ink and replaced by Simon's. I have a stomachache, I can't eat spicy food, but Simon likes it, so they assumed I do too. My car, the first I bought, Mom made me give it to Simon. I've secretly loved you for so long, but Simon got with you. He rambled, speaking torn thoughts out loud. Finally, he ended with, "Things I want, I can never keep." It was more a sigh than a statement, yet it landed solidly in my heart. Maybe it was our shared feelings of being trapped. I leaned in and kissed him, like kissing another me. Holding his fingers, I put a ring on his finger. He clearly got emotional, his chest heaving. The second promise I made? I'm breaking it too. We're too in sync, I don't want to part ways. The next day, I was woken up by noise, feeling sore all over. I opened the door to find the showcase in the living room had been smashed. Simon stood in the living room, clenching his jaw with a bruised cheek, and Sam had a cut on his face. Simon sees me and storms over, angrily asking, "What's this about?" I ignored him, walked over to Sam, and wiped the blood from his face with my sleeve. "The marriage certificate?" Sam mumbled, "It got torn." Simon tugs me from behind, eyes red. "Molly, what do you mean?" Finally, I looked at him and reminded him, "I told you we broke up a long time ago." Maybe he recalled that week I was gone, or the breakup I mentioned, or that PPT, or the talk of getting a marriage certificate he thought was a joke. "We've been together 5 years. How could you do this to me?" "We've been together 5 years. What about Grandma?" "She won't agree, Grandma loves me most." Yet, when he eagerly kissed a stranger, or joined flirty, single trips, did he remember those 5 years? Grandma, now and then clear-minded, sensed something off and stopped calling him Little Simon. Now, she holds Sam's hand and calls him her dear Shin. Whoever's good to me, she likes. May showed up too, and slapped Sam hard across the face. Sam's head turned, his mouth bleeding. "How could you treat your brother like this? Have you no shame?" I stepped in front of Sam, telling the unreasonable pair, "Get out of my home." May looked at me, then Simon behind me, losing control and trying to hit me. But the expected pain didn't land. Sam blocked her. He said, "Because you're my mom, you can hit me. But don't hit my wife." Simon was provoked, stepping on the broken glass. "Who are you calling your wife?" Not sure who moved first, but when I knew it, both were already fighting. Though they're brothers, Simon wasn't a match for fit Sam and quickly lost the upper hand. Holding May on the couch, she just sobbed, cursing me and Sam. "You're so biased." She stopped crying to defend herself. "Simon's the youngest, he's gentle, I just take more care of him." "Why won't you admit it?" In the end, security took them out, but Sam had wounds too. Simon struggled not to leave, calling my name out again and again, and I hit him once. It's fine if Sam takes hits, but I protect what's mine. I'll hold back from hitting elders, but I can hit you. After they left, Sam knelt, quietly sweeping up the glass. Piece by piece, he looked for the marriage certificate in it. Piece by piece fitting it back, like piecing together a broken self. I knelt, patting his head. "It's okay, I'll give you a home." On our wedding day, Sam's parents didn't come, nor did mine. The two of us invited our friends, Ashley and Ethan, and we threw a lively wedding together. Grandma was sitting in her chair, holding my hand and calling me her good girl, then holding Sam's hand and calling him little she. Over and over, Sam responded to her each time. Grandma laughed. She's always been my biggest worry in this world. I was afraid she wouldn't get along with Sam. But thankfully, Sam kept his word, and Grandma trusts him. When Simon came to find me, Sam was in the kitchen learning how to make a new dessert. Simon stood in the doorway, looking exhausted. Molly, if I hadn't been so stubborn and gone to that bachelor party, we would have been married. I continued his sentence, and he just stood there, lost in thought. I added, after marriage, you'd find reasons to go to all kinds of parties, and eventually cheat. We broke up, and your brother confessed to me, and I'd still end up with him. How are you sure I'd cheat on you in the future? He asked, caught up in his reasoning. I replied, watching his stubborn face, because you cheating at that bachelor party is a fact. Avoid it once, and it could happen again. Sam softly called to me from behind, Molly, try the new flavor. Simon leaned past me, yelling at Sam, how long do you think she'll like you? We were together for 5 years and she let go. You two have only just met. Think you can make it a year? Sam stood behind me without answering and simply said, my wife and I are going to eat, before gently closing the door. Before bed, I asked him, how long do you think we'll last? He kissed my fingertips and said, I won't restrict your freedom, remember? I understood then the decision was mine. Just 6 months after the wedding, this young intern started hanging around me all the time, always sweetly calling me Molly. One day, after staying late signing contracts, I got in my car to find it was him driving. He dropped me off and, as I stepped out, he suddenly blocked my way. I coldly pushed him away, stumbling, only to find Sam standing there on the steps. I called to him, aren't you gonna help me? Hearing my voice, he finally walked over, eyes downcast, to support me. Once inside, I poked his head, not mad. He didn't answer, paused for a moment, then said, it's your freedom. I poked him again, teasing, then I'll invite that guy up here. No. But isn't it my freedom? He fell silent again, went out, and brought back some cream puffs. I was wrong. Teach me, and I'll change. No, it was me who said there shouldn't be limits on my freedom after marriage. I bit into a cream puff and told him, you're not wrong. Then, I seriously assured him that I've always been serious about relationships and never two-timed. But his anxiety didn't ease, and the bags under his eyes got darker each day. Ever since that boy started hanging around, he hadn't slept well. He wouldn't check my phone or ask questions, just silently worried. I don't know why he feels so insecure. One night, I woke up to his pretending to sleep face. I tugged his ear, saying, let's cancel that rule, you take charge and I'll listen. He opened his eyes, there's nothing to manage, it's your freedom. I looked at him for a long while. He buried his head into my shoulder. His muffled voice came, fire that boy. Come home early. Send me messages. Tell me in advance if you're going on business trips. I'll panic when I wake and you're not there. We didn't stick to any of our original agreement, but I was willing. Extra, I've had a crush on Molly for a long time. I thought of countless ways to pursue her, and eventually applied to her dream college. But she chose another one, and we ended up in schools on opposite sides of the country. Friends told me she changed boyfriends frequently in college. But the Molly I know took relationships seriously. She'd blush and refuse me, saying, no dating in high school. I once secretly went to see her. It was raining that day. She was looking up at the raindrops. Maybe I stared too long because she eventually turned to ask, wanna add each other as friends? I did, moving over 1,000 kilometers to a city I'd never been to. Adding her was worth it. Later, I found out her parents had new families. They'd kept it hidden for her college entrance exams, but she discovered it anyway. At the time, I thought, once I graduate, when I've got things more together, I'd go see her. After graduation, I thought, once I have a house, savings, then. In front of someone you love, you always feel inferior. Especially me, who never gets to keep anything from my childhood on. I wanted to give her the best, so she'd stay with me a little longer. Then, the news came that she was dating Simon. Doesn't matter, I told myself, they'd break up in less than 2 weeks. But they didn't. 5 years, not 2 weeks, but 5 years. Molly didn't post much on Twitter, only when truly happy. 2 posts, skiing with Simon, and once with a strawberry cake on her birthday. These were things I had planned to do with her and wrote in my notebook. When Simon brought Molly back home, he tilted his head slightly, like saying, "See, the girl you like will marry me." I'm always a step too slow, always hesitant. When Simon cheated during the bachelor party, he got involved with a short-haired girl. Seeing them kiss was both painful and overwhelming. Molly knew, and she'd be heartbroken. I sat in front of Molly's door with a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of wine. All my life, people saw me as obedient and disciplined. In middle school, they didn't allow boys' hair to go over their ears. Only I showed up with a buzz cut the next day. I allowed myself just a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of wine's time. Now I've got the house, car, savings. Yet my heart pounds restlessly. Instead of whether to open the door, I wondered, what if Molly doesn't want me after I do? Facing the chaos and rebuilding of compressing time, I've always faced it alone, and perhaps I always will. I stood up and knocked on the door. Seeing her face, the words just spilled out, no thinking needed. "Molly, I'm here to mess with my brother." I finally fell asleep. A ring on my ring finger, and Molly's face right there. After most of a year, I got some real sleep. I'm a coward, and so is she. She loves taking care of me, so I purposely showed all my scars, laid them all out for her. Crushes, injustice, envy, all of it right in front of her. It worked out, I got a ring. My phone's flooded with missed calls, I ignored them. I got up and waited by the door early. Simon didn't show up until 10. Too late. Molly sent the photo last night at 11:30. If it were me, I'd have caught the earliest train, and been back in 7 hours. He gritted his teeth and grabbed my shirt. "You're my brother." I pinned him back, originally planning to talk about him snooping my notebook, then give him a good beating. But with him standing there, it didn't matter anymore. Like a reflex, I whispered, "Keep it down, she's asleep." I forgot why I didn't eat strawberries. I exaggerated, saying, "Strawberries are the absolute worst food in the world." Sam didn't ask why, he just never brought strawberries into our lives again. It was winter, a kid held up a stick of candied hawthorns. Noticing my gaze, he asked, "Want one?" I shook my head. It was late, they might not even have any left. But Sam didn't care, he said to himself. He just passed by, ate one, can't be far. In the wind and a bit of snow, he helped me find a candied hawthorn. Finally, after lots of winding turns, we found a vendor in an alley. I took the first bite. I remembered that summer. I had known my parents' relationship was rocky, but they promised me love wouldn't change, so I stayed stable. Until one day, a little girl in a dress knocked on our door and said, "Molly, I'm here for my mom." May came out from behind me, surprised. "How did you get here?" "It's my birthday." That day, May went with her. I said nothing, sent her a message early, "Get me some strawberries on your way back." Timed my watch for her return. But she forgot, because she was celebrating another daughter's birthday. She came back at 10:30, said, "The fruit store near home was closed." I said nothing, put on my shoes, walked to the fruit store. She lied, it wasn't closed. She just didn't see, or forgot after seeing the message while busy with another birthday. I came back with a bag of strawberries, her face changed. "Do you really need strawberries this late? There's apples in the fridge." Did I really need strawberries at that hour? What was I trying to prove? I ignored her, washed the strawberries myself, took a bite. Sour and bitter. That bite broke me, made me face that I was an unwanted kid. Then I took a bite of the candied hawthorn Sam found after all those twists and turns, and it tasted like those strawberries from that year. But it was sweet.